Hello everybody. Today I'm going to tell you the story of the Canny Capercaillie. Now this is a capercaillie. And it's a wee bird that lives in the forests in Scotland. And this is what it sounds like. Now, you can help me tell this story, but there's some things that you need. Now, the capercaillie makes a really funny sound, but you can help me to make that sound if you have something that you can scrape, like a guiro. Good sound for a capercaillie. Other things that you'll need for this story are claves or 2 wooden spoons to tap together, a shaker, and a drum. If you don't have a drum, you could use a pot and hit it with your wooden spoon. Now there's some other animals in this story, and we have a wolf. Look at its teeth. That's the wolf growling. Now whenever you hear the wolf growl, you can join in. You can growl as well. Do you want a wee practice? Now there are other animals. We've got an elk. An elk has big long antlers that are covered in velvet and they're very, very soft to touch. Now, if you've got a piece of velvet or some soft material, you can feel how soft the elk's antlers are. I've got a cushion here and it's velvet, and I can feel how soft the cushion is. Just like the elk's antlers. Another thing that I've got here is a beaver. And a beaver has got enormous teeth. Look at the teeth on that. And it needs those big teeth so that it can gnaw through all the branches and logs to make its home, called a lodge, on a river. So when you hear, you can get your claves or your wooden spoons, when you hear tapping, that could be the beaver gnawing through the branches. The shaker is going to be the noise of the trees rustling in the breeze. Our story takes place in the Caledonian Forest many, many years ago, when the Caledonian Forest covered a vast area in Scotland, and it had huge tall pine trees reaching right up to the sky. I've got a branch of one, and if you've got a branch with some leaves on it, you can feel how the forest felt. It's a bit scratchy. Another thing I've got from the forest is a pine cone. This feels great, a bit scrapey, a bit like the guiro. So when we make the sound of the forest, you can use your shakers, you can use your claves or your wooden spoons to make the sounds of the forest. Another thing we've got in the forest is bird song, and I've got a wee bird here. But I've also got a switch that makes bird song too. So let's make the sound of the forest before we start our story. Get your shaker. Shake those branches. And when the branches click together, get your claves. That's the branches all knocking together. Now I want you to get your guiro because we're just about to start the story. Are you ready? That's the sound of the Capercaillie. One day, a long time ago in the Caledonian Forest, the Capercaillie was out scratching about for some food at the bottom of a tree. Now, just to let you know, the Capercaillie is a clever wee bird, a bit canny, knows exactly what's going on. And in the wood, there was the wolf. Can you growl? And this wolf was making a real nuisance of himself because he kept creeping up on all the animals because he wanted to eat them. Well, the animals were quite scunnered with this. And the Canny Capercaillie decided that he would get his friends together and they would come up with a plan. So the next time the wolf jumped out at them, the Capercaillie was ready to put his plan into action. And it was today. So the Capercaillie, let's go, guiro, let's do it again. Let me hear. The Capercaillie was scratching about on the ground when suddenly, from behind a tree, the wolf jumped out and glared at the Capercaillie. Well, the Capercaillie was a bit alarmed but thought very, very quickly. And he said, "What do you want with me today?" And the wolf said, "I'm hungry and I want to eat you." Well, the Capercaillie thought quickly because this was when his plan was going to get put into action. He said, "I've had a thought. It's not a good idea to eat me. My feathers will get stuck in your throat and they'll choke you. Come with me because I've got somebody that's tastier than me and you'll like it." Well, the wolf was greedy and he thought, "Okay, I'll follow you through the forest. Now get your drum and start beating your drum or your pot." So the wolf began to follow the Capercaillie through the forest until suddenly they came to a clearing. In the clearing, Elk was rubbing his antlers up and down against the bark of a tree. Now get your cushion and feel how soft his velvety antlers were feeling. Elk stopped and looked at Wolf and Capercaillie. He said, "What's wrong? What do you want with me?" Well, Wolf, get the growl, Wolf growled at Elk. Elk was bigger than Wolf, but it didn't deter him because he was very greedy. Wolf said, "Elk, I'm hungry and I am going to eat you." Well, Elk thought for a minute, looked at Capercaillie, who had right then decided this is a good time for me to scuttle off back into the forest, and off he went. Elk was left on his own and he thought very quickly and he said, "Wolf, I don't think it's a good idea that you eat me. My velvet antlers will get stuck in your throat and choke you. But if you follow me, I can take you to somebody that's bigger and tastier than me. Come with me." Well, Wolf was very greedy and he thought, "Okay, that's a good idea. Get your drum." So Wolf and Elk walked together through the forest until they came to a riverbank. Now we're going to make some sounds of the river. I've got a rain stick. And if you haven't got a rain stick, you could get some water, put it in a sealed bottle, just shake it up and down. Another thing I've got for this part of the story is a water spray. Water sprays are always good fun. But I'll put it here, ready for the next bit of the story. Elk and wolf stopped at the riverbank. There on the riverbank was beaver. Now get your claves or your wooden spoons and start tapping them together, because Beaver was gnawing through the branches to try and build her home, which is called a lodge in the river. When she saw Wolf and Elk, she stopped and she looked at them. Elk decided this would be a good time to get back into the forest, so he galloped off. Beaver looked at Wolf. Wolf, what do you want with me? Wolf growled. He said, I'm hungry and I am going to eat you. Beaver thought for a minute. And she said, do you know what? It wouldn't be a good idea for you to eat me. Look at the size of my teeth. They'll stick in your throat and kill you. Wolf thought for a minute. And he said, well, you've got a point there. And Beaver said, I can take you to somebody that's tastier than me, but we need to swim. Can you jump into the river and follow me? And Beaver jumped into the river and splashed. Get your water spray. You can spray anybody, by the way. You can spray your pal or your mum, whoever's beside you. Or they could spray you. Beaver jumped into the water and started swimming up river. Now I've got the sound. I've got the sound of a river here. Can you hear it? Wolf jumped into the river too, but he wasn't as good a swimmer as Beaver, so he started swimming as fast as he could. He knew that he could catch Beaver up because he had a great sense of smell, so that's what he was going to rely on when Beaver came out of the river, which happened just a couple of miles upstream. Beaver came out of the river, leaving Wolf way behind, but Beaver had a plan. Off she went into the forest. Wolf clambered out of the river, splashing, get your splash, splashing as he went. He started sniffing. And he picked up Beaver's scent and he followed Beaver back into the forest. It took some time. Beaver was quite fast and she was quite a way ahead of him, but eventually Wolf joined up with Beaver in front of a dark cave. In here, said Beaver. In here you'll find Bear. Now, Bear's a bit crabbit, but she's sleeping. So you could just go in there and you could eat her. She's much tastier than me. Wolf thought for a minute. He said, I think you might be right. If I creep up on her when she's sleeping, she won't have a chance. Right, I'm going to go into the cave. So he went into the dark, dark cave. Beaver stayed outside the cave. Suddenly, Capercaillie and Elk appeared. It was time to finish the plan. While Beaver had been way ahead of Wolf, she had cut down as many branches as she could. Beaver and Elk and Capercaillie picked up all the branches and they put them in front of the cave, and then with Beaver's awesome building skills, they joined up all the branches and securely blocked the mouth of the cave. Quick, said Beaver. It won't be long before Wolf finds out that Bear isn't even in the cave. Right at that moment, that's when Wolf came bounding back towards the front of the cave. "Let me out," he shouted. "Let me out," he growled. But clever Capercaillie, along with Beaver and along with Elk, turned their backs on the angry wolf in the cave and sauntered back out through the forest. If you work together with your friends, it always makes you stronger. Then, oh no, Bear came back to her cave. Oh no! And I'll leave the next bit up to your imagination. Thank you for helping me with the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.